Every week, the Little Root Lessons podcast hosts a dojo match in which players can sign up and they are randomly paired with another dojo participant to partake in a serious best of three match. What you're about to see is game one of my dojo match this week. Hey everyone, and welcome to the Bauer Battle Breakdown, where we get practical advice by watching back games. My opponent here has a Xerneas Entity lead, and anyone who has played in a restricted format knows exactly what this lead is meant to do. My intent is to set up Trick Room here, because I have a very Trick Room heavy team. Now, it's a weird situation because my opponent has the thing that they're supposed to do, I have the thing that I want to do, and neither of us can really stop the other one. My opponent opens with the Follow Me in order to protect the Xerneas, who will immediately fire off this Geomancy. You'll see that they have the Power Herb in order to activate that 2-turn ability immediately. They'll get all the juicy buffs associated with Geomancy. I'll get to Parting Shot. Unfortunately, the debuffs don't go into the Xerneas like I wanted. However, I do get Calyrex out, and I'm able to set Trick Room. So now I have my really slow, now really fast threat under Trick Room, and my opponent has their buffed up Xerneas ready to deal extra damage, go extra fast, and resist special attacks more effectively. I decided that this is a good point to go ahead and Dynamax. This is for two reasons. First, the max Quake boosts to my special defense are going to pay dividends for as long as this Xerneas stays in play. And two, if my opponent attempts to do a cheeky Incineroar swap in, I will get to activate my White Herb and I will get to smack it with a max Quake for really huge damage, sometimes even killing the Incineroar depending on how I continue along this thread of just trying to stack up as many max Quake boosts as I possibly can in order to preserve the later game here against this Xerneas. Now, here in a second, I thought I was huge brain. I was like, oh yes, Entity protected, I'm awesome. Now they both protected, so small brain. My opponent is working on stalling out my Dynamax, stalling out my Trick Room turns, and is doing a pretty effective job of that. I still feel good about my choice to Dynamax early and get these quick boosts, but my opponent is weathering that very well. See me throw out yet another max Quake. Porygon is in kind of a weird spot because what I would like to do is Eerie Impulse the Xerneas even one time would be super nice. However, Foul Play keeps covering for Entity, so I figure if I want to get anything productive done, I'll actually need to get rid of it. I will pick up the KO for the special defense boost and the Chilling Neigh boost, and my opponent's Xerneas is going to come in and slap me for a little bit more damage. This is where Incineroar shows up finally to take away my hard-earned Chilling Neigh boost as soon as I get it. My Dynamax ends, and I only have a limited number of Trick Room turns left. My line of thinking here is that Fake Out into Calyrex is guaranteed, so I will protect, and I will swap for Incineroar, going to reposition and set up for a Fake Out next turn because I know that Psychic Terrain is about to end. However, the following happens. They Dynamax, not Xerneas, but Incineroar. This was very surprising to me. However, given that my Calyrex does have the 3 special defense boosts, they perhaps thought that they were better off Dynamaxing Incineroar in order to get rid of my threat. They set Sun, I run out of Trick Room, and the Psychic Terrain ends. So now, I have a good opportunity to pin down Xerneas if I so want to, but my Calyrex is in big trouble. I decided that I will instead Parting Shot, but I can't quite decide on the target. I do decide on Incineroar, but I think it should have been Xerneas. I swap in Porygon because I'm thinking, hey, the Calyrex is dead meat, maybe Porygon 2 can handle it. Unfortunately, this is a very stupid idea. As you can see, Porygon almost gets KO'd straight away. I should have done Fake Out to Xerneas or Parting Shot the Xerneas, but I lost Porygon 2 for nothing, and that was basically really, really sad. Now that I've cycled back in my Incineroar and my Palkia, I can pin down the Xerneas and guarantee that my Trick Room will get set up so that my Palkia does not get smoked by the deer. So when we choose these options, the Xerneas will protect. I figured it would, but the risk of not doing Fake Out into that slot was way too high. So Incineroar will do Max Darkness to lower the special defense, rude, and then Palkia will set Trick Room. So now I'll at least get 2 shots at Xerneas, who has just protected, before it can pop off and do something. So I do Flare Blitz, I do Earth Power, because we're in Sun, that's my best bet. Flare Blitz is going to do a ton of damage, which is excellent. But then, Poppy reveals that his Incineroar has Snarl, which is a huge bummer when I'm trying to get over the finish line to KO this Xerneas. Unfortunately, it's not enough, and I actually lose both of these Pokemon to the Dazzling Gleam. After that absolute whooping, it is Calyrex and me against the world. I pretty quickly decide that the only way I'm going to stay in this game is to make a little bit of a read. I decide, hey, Xerneas needs to protect. And they do, which is really cool. Calyrex is able to get a high horsepower into Incineroar. It doesn't KO, but thankfully they do U-turn instead of Flare Blitz or a fire move more threatening. Groudon also reveals itself as the last Pokemon, which is incredibly lucky for me, very weak to ice. This is all good. Xerneas will pull back for Incineroar, and it'll be for the first time that an Intimidate triggers the White Herb, because I'm going below the neutral attack. Glacial Lance is going to come through, probably enough to pick up the Incineroar, and it is, but not enough to get Groudon. I get the attack boost, and I'm praying, holding on for dear life, that Calyrex can survive. And it does, but I get burned. And I lose. Pop quiz. Knowing what I know about who was left on my opponent's team, can I secure the win? I'll give you a second. Your answer should be, it depends on how many turns of Trick Room are left, or if you paid more attention than I did during the game, no. It was indeed tragic to lose Calyrex to that burn, but it ultimately would not have saved me from defeat. And that brings me to the first point. Always, always, always pay attention to your turn count on various effects. It would not have saved me on this particular game, but if you saw this burn and thought, that's BS, you're wrong, because it didn't matter. It's worth noting that if you lose a Pokemon, the little menu pops up and you need to pick your replacement for the Pokemon that was just fainted. In that moment, you cannot check your turn count for Tailwind, for Trick Room, for Terrain, for any of that stuff. So it's important to always be aware of those values. The second thing that I want to point out about this game is that you should never get too comfortable with what your Pokemon are capable of. Anybody who's played Sword and Shield since Series 6 can tell you that Porygon 2 is nigh unkillable. You can't beat it with literally anything. This line of thinking can be super dangerous. On the turn where my Calyrex was pinned, I thought to myself, I'll bail out Calyrex and Porygon 2 can handle it. However, that could not have been further from the truth. I was stuck in this idea that Porygon can stomach anything. However, had I known that my replacement would have been KO'd regardless, it actually would have been a lot smarter to throw Palkia under the bus. It sets me up for the Fake Out Trick Room play further down the line, but it would have been with a Pokemon that is not Xerneas weak and gets to bypass the special defense boosts that it set up. If you're new here and you haven't seen the Bauer Battle Breakdown series, I encourage you to check out the other 2 episodes that I've made. My goal is to offer practical advice through the lens of reviewing the games that I have played. That's my time. I'll see you next week.